What's up, YouTube? Saturday, I'm going to try to knock out a quick project this weekend, installing Proxmox on my ThinkCentre, and then standing up 2 VMs using Terraform. Let's get it. If you're not familiar with Proxmox, Proxmox is what is considered a Type 1 hypervisor or a bare metal hypervisor, which means the VMs are running directly on the hardware and don't rely on the host operating system. Now, Terraform is an open source infrastructure as code tool that allows you to define, provision, and manage your infrastructure using a configuration language known as HCL. What I'll be doing is I'll be using Terraform to directly deploy Ubuntu machines on my Proxmox server without interacting with Proxmox UI. This will allow me to minimize button clicking and create a repeatable, idempotent process for deploying my machines on Proxmox. This will inevitably help me scale my Proxmox cluster as I add more VMs. For now, I'll only be deploying 2 Ubuntu machines that I'll eventually install K3s on, one being the control node and one being the worker node. But for today, I'm just going to be setting up the Proxmox cluster. So let's get started. All right, first we're going to go to the Proxmox website and download the ISO so we can load it up into our USB stick that we're going to boot from. Once you've downloaded your ISO, you're going to want to use a tool to create the bootable media. For me, I like to use a tool called Rufus. You want to insert your USB stick into your machine. Here. Get in there. So you're going to go ahead and select the Proxmox ISO that you just downloaded and press start. This will take a second. All right, so here's my ThinkCentre that I'm going to be using to install Proxmox onto. I'm going to go ahead and get that plugged in. And once this is ready, which awesome, it's ready now, we're going to go ahead and get it removed and boot this thing up. All right, we're starting up our ThinkCentre now. Popping up into the boot screen, we're going to smash F2 to enter the BIOS settings because we want to check a couple things. Here we go. All right, we've booted up our ThinkCentre and we've entered the BIOS menu. There's a few things here we want to make sure is configured correctly before we do the Proxmox installation. First, we're going to make sure the USB is selected as our boot device. You're going to do that by going over to Startup and Primary Boot Sequence. I've already set this up here. What you should see is that your USB is the primary device when booting up your machine. Next, we're going to make sure that our device is configured for virtualization. Now, before installing Proxmox or choosing the hardware you're going to install Proxmox on, you'll want to make sure that the CPU supports virtualization. All right, where is this found? Let's go ahead and go to the advanced section, CPU setup. At a minimum here, you're going to want to make sure that the VTX or VTD setting is set to enabled, and also the virtualization technology setting is set to enabled. Now, this is definitely a dummies guide, so make sure you do your own research. There's some other settings in the BIOS that you can change to make it more performant, or you could have a different CPU. So just make sure you do your own research and don't blame me. All right, with that, we can go ahead and save our changes and reboot our machine. Make sure you have your USB stick inserted into your machine before rebooting, and it should go directly to the Proxmox installation screen. Okay. All right, we should boot directly into the installation guide now. Awesome. We're in the installation menu. Let's quickly go through this. It shouldn't take too long. All right, we're going to go ahead and do the graphical installation. Make sure that you're pulling up the documentation for the installation yourself, as there's additional information and much more detailed explanation of the steps I'm taking. Awesome. Let's go ahead and jump in. The installation shouldn't need internet connection. I don't have my device connected to the internet right now. We should still make it to the installation screen. Awesome, we're in. Okay, you've got your end user license agreement. Read through that, press agree. You're going to select your target hard drive or disk that you're going to install on. It'll be dependent on your machine. If you have multiple, I only have one, so not much to do here. Great, here we're going to put our country for where we live and time zone. Great. Son's downstairs playing Mario. Alright, we're going to make our super sweet secure password here that we will end up changing and storing in our password manager, Bitwarden. But that will happen once we SSH in. And I'll probably change the password. Then we'll put our email in. I don't think this actually matters unless you're using some enterprise stuff. It will email you if there's errors and stuff, but probably skip it. Cool, here's our network settings. Now here we'll want to take some time and make sure we set this up correctly. Specifically for me, this is why I'm reinstalling Proxmox, because I rebuilt my router. I changed a lot of the settings, so a lot of these IP addresses don't even exist on my network. So if I assign them, there probably is going to be some issues. And then I also want the host name to be part of the domain that I've set up. So here, for me, I'm going to call this proxmox.vermilion.local. For the IPS address CIDR, I'm going to make sure there's no let's not use that. Delete it. I'm going to put my CIDR I'm using, and I'm going to make sure there's no collision. .1 is where my Proxmox server lives. So I'm going to pick something that's not that. For my gateway and my DNS, though, I am going to just pick my router, as it will serve as kind of my gateway, and then also use it for DNS pass-through, or DNS resolution. Great. Let's take a second and make sure that this all looks good. Yes, it does. And we are going to go off to next. This all looks good. We're going to automatically reboot after successful installation and install. Here we go. This is going to take a little bit. You can go ahead and take a break, get a drink of water. We'll be back in a minute. Look at all these cool facts it shows you while you're installing stuff. Container virtualization, only 1 to 3 container virtualization, only 1 to 3% performance loss. Oh, I missed it. I'm not quick enough. RESTful Web API. That. Ooh, yeah, we're gonna get better at swimming. We're gonna go swimming. We're gonna come back after this. We're gonna leave and go swimming and come back and do some terraforming. But look at that. Look at all these cool things that are popping up. That RESTful Web API, that is what Terraform's going to use to do stuff. So you don't have to use the web console. Very cool. Yeah, here we go. Next steps. It's installed. It's going to go to a black screen terminal, and it's going to say, hey, make sure you remove. It's going to tell me here in a second. Rebooting, remove the ISO. Let's do that. Boom. Hopefully I was quick enough there, and it should boot to Proxmox. Fingers crossed. Oh, looking good, looking good. Let's press enter there on our keyboard. It should giddy up. It's not going to be anything pretty. There's no graphical interface for Proxmox unless you access the web UI. But boom, we're in. Look at that. Easy day. It should be admin and then my super secure password that I think. Nope. Proxmox. And then the super secure password I Okay, come on. Okay, so the default user is root. That's good for everybody now. See, this is why you look at the documentation and not try to wing it. All right, sweet. I am in. We are in Proxmox. Got it installed. Sweet. It's 1 o'clock here. I'm gonna take my son to go swimming. We're gonna come back. We're gonna connect Proxmox to the network, and then we are gonna start terraforming. Out for now. Be right back. Hey, this is Future Jared here. What you're about to watch with me deploying VMs using Terraform is pretty messy. I make a lot of mistakes here, specifically with how I choose to create my template. I'm still going to show you all of this because I think it's worth documenting, and there was a lot of learning occurring. What I ended up doing the next day was creating a template VM using the Proxmox CLI. I've included these commands in my GitHub repository that I'll link in the video description. Doing more research, I figured out that Packer is probably the best way to create these VM templates. My weekend project for next week is to go back and create template VMs using Packer, specifically one for the control node and one for the worker node. All right, so like I said, I still think there's a lot of good stuff here, so let's get back to the video. Okay, we are back. So kind of a bummer, the pool was closed, but we went to mini golf, which was pretty dope, and my son had a blast. And he fell asleep on the way home, and he's still asleep, so let's get this finished before he wakes up. That's the goal. So what I have done is connected my ThinkCentre to my network, and the private IP address that I assigned to it has worked perfectly. All the networking so far, fingers crossed, has gone well. I can log in with my username and password. So username root, which we found when we were interacting with the CLI. And I'll put my super secure password in here, log in. Cool, I don't have a subscription, roger that. And here's the UI. So if you wanted to, you can launch VMs from here by clicking create VM, and it will take you through kind of a create VM wizard, and you'll set all the different parameters, the system, the disk, the CPU, all of the different resources you want to allocate to that VM. However, like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't want to do that. I want to use Terraform. All right, so what I have so far is a base project that's in my GitHub. Provide a link to that project in the video description. But before we get into the Terraform portion, we need to make sure we have the ISO from the Ubuntu server we're going to be launching these VMs from. So first, we're going to SSH into our Proxmox server. We're going to download that ISO and set it up through the Proxmox UI. All right, I'm going to be using WSL, which stands for Windows Subsystem Linux, because I'm not a huge Windows guy and I'm more familiar with the Linux commands. So I'm going to run WSL D Ubuntu. And that's going to put me into an Ubuntu virtual environment on my Windows machine. Great. Awesome. Now let's SSH into our Proxmox server. That's not going to work because that's the wrong location. There we go. Boom. Now we're going to put in our super secure password that we created. And we're in. Look at that. Let's clear that. And we're into our Proxmox server. Sweet. Now let's pull that ISO down. Because we're connected to the internet, this should work great if I just use a wget command. Put that here. Okay. Wget. Hey, that one worked. Boom. ChatGPT pointed me to the wrong URL to download the ISO, but you know, go to this website. I'll put that in the README actually. And great. After a few attempts, we got it downloading. Sweet. So we have the ISO now. Look at that. Bingo, 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 bango. All right, so now we got to move this ISO to a place where Proxmox expects to see the ISOs. Sweet. So let's move Ubuntu to var lib vz template ISO. Bam, look, it's there. Perfect. Yes, sir. Come here. Okay, my son woke up. That's okay, he's back there coloring. We're gonna finish this before dinner. Now that we know that the ISO is on Proxmox and we know that Proxmox can see it, we're gonna go ahead and create a VM that we can make a template of. That template is what we're gonna use with Terraform. So to do this, go ahead and go to create VM. We're gonna create a unique name, whatever you wanna call it. For me, we're gonna call this Ubuntu server template. For our operating system, we're gonna go ahead and select that ISO that we downloaded and find. For system, we're gonna change the machine to Q35, and that's just for performance. Everything else should be good. For disk, I'm gonna go ahead and leave all of these settings the same. 32 gigs for storage, that should be fine. You know, some of these I might tweak later, but I'm just gonna kind of go through this. And if you want to create other templates in the future, maybe you want different sizes, you should also be able to tweak these in the Terraform settings, and we'll kind of get into that later. For CPUs here, I'm going to go 2 cores. For memory, I'm going to keep it 2 gigs of RAM. Network here, you know, keep all of this the default. This should all work out of the box, and I shouldn't have to play with it at all. Let's go to next. You can review your settings here and finish. Great. That's going to create our VM. So I actually have one already running that I stood up, and we can hopefully just jump right into and, you know, get it set up and then create a template of it for us to jump right into the Terraform stuff. So in the Proxmox console, you can actually access these VMs directly through this kind of UI thing, which is pretty cool. So here, I'm going to go ahead and set up the server. So English. All right, now that we have that, let's make a template from this machine that we just finished setting up. So let's go ahead and shut it down. You know, you can do it either way. You know, I right-clicked and you can click shutdown, or you can do sudo shutdown now, I think. Now? Nope. H now. Okay, sudo shutdown now. There we go. And it's shutting down. So once it's shut down, we should be able to make a template of it. Sweet, it's off. Let's go ahead and convert to template. Yes, let's please convert to a template. All right, so now it's a template. Easy. Now let's see if we can spin this up using Terraform. Yes, sir. Whoa, that's amazing. That guy's name's SBO. SBO. He's like a rhino. You got a rhino head. Yeah. That's pretty sick. Back in cursor. And now we're going to update some stuff. I'm going to update my secret variables, and I'm not going to show that. And I'll be right back. All right, so I went ahead and updated my terraform.tfvars file. That file will not be in the repository because that has all the secret variables, like your username and password for your Proxmox server, the URL for your Proxmox server. So when you pull down the repository, you'll need to create that file and put the appropriate values in for those variables. If it's a little messy, it's because I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm learning while I'm doing this, which is a bit dangerous that I'm recording, but we're gonna do it. In my project, which is great, let's do a terraform init. Terraform's initialized. Let's form a plan for Terraform. See what it comes up with. Counter. Okay, so I think I need to change my secret variables. I'm gonna stop real quick, change those secret variables, come back and try again. All right, I made a quick change. Let's see if that does anything. Boom, that worked. But it looks good, right? It's a lot of good things have happened here. That means, running that Terraform plan, that it talked to the API, so my Proxmox server, and they communicated together. They planned the deployment, and now let's go to the next step. Cool. Let's apply this and see what happens. Terraform apply, and we're gonna auto approve it because we've already looked it over everything. I just want this thing to happen. Let's do it. Big bucks, no whammies. Looks like it's creating it. That's exciting. Fingers crossed. It creates it. Still creating. Okay. Not sure if that's good or bad. All right, so we've upgraded to 3.0.1, tech RC6, doing some Google searching. I'm hoping this fixes it. Big bucks, no whammies. I've gone through circles and circles and circles on this. Oh boy. All right, there's some issues here that I think I fixed. Stuff now. Hey, and we have liftoff. That took longer than I was hoping, but we got it. We have VMs, they are running. We are cooking with gas. This guy's here, he's hungry. It's time for dinner. I'm gonna take a break. I might come back later this evening and make a summary. All right, I want to do a quick recap of what I was actually able to get done today. I was pretty much doing it live today with this recording, so let me know if this was useful. First, you can see here we've got 2 VMs running in Proxmox. I can come here and through the console, I can see that it's booting up. Things are getting configured.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
That's actually not working. And then it restarts.
1 hour later.
Okay, that, oh my gosh. 1 hour later. Okay, I thought I got it working. Now I definitely have it working. Probably. The issue I was having was I was trying to assign the disk to a smaller size than what I had created in the template. This was creating actually a new drive, and the drive from the template was just being unused. And that drive has the operating system on it. And so it was just getting stuck in this endless loop. And so, knock on wood, if I go to the console now, I should be booting up. Yes. Thank you. Sweet baby Jesus. Let's log in and make sure we can get in. Dad. Boom. And then we'll use our super secret password that I almost showed you the first time, which is why I probably got weird. And we are in. We can see we have an IP address in our LAN. Probably want to kind of block that so that way I've protected IPs for specifically for kind of Proxmox/K3s, but it is working, which is great. Okay, that took way longer than I wanted to. I do have it done, so let's recap now. What do I have done? All right, I have 2 virtual machines, 2 Ubuntu virtual machines running on Proxmox. They were deployed auto-magically through Terraform. So I have this project, which I'll publish in my GitHub, and this is what I use to deploy it. Now, I will say, grain of salt, probably why I had so many issues is the bulk of this project was created using ChatGPT, and then in Cursor I have it connected to Claude, and so that's what I was doing a lot of my troubleshooting with, and it was referencing old documentation. It had best example here in the version file, it was referencing an old version, like 2.9.11. You'll see it in the video, and there's actually a type error for one of the variables, and that gave me a headache for probably about an hour before I realized, hey, there's a new version, switch to that, and that solved all my problems. And then, once I got past that, there were still issues. There was formatting of, it kept wanting me to put slot 0 here, which it doesn't want that. It wants the kind of the device you're going to. Anyway, a lot of lessons learned here. A lot of things that I can still make better. But what I wanted to accomplish was an automatic deployment of VMs using infrastructure as code, which I accomplished. Awesome. So, what's next? I don't know. Let me know. I'm thinking K3s. I want to get, I want to clean this up for sure. I'll probably keep working on it this weekend. Monday's a holiday, so I'll have some time between editing this video and hopefully working on this a little more to clean up the code. Let me know in the comments what you think I should do next, if I'm on the right track, or if there's something else I need to focus on, or maybe I did something wrong here, and you have a recommendation. So just let me know. But for tonight, I think I'm done, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.